Hey guys, how's it going? should Everything should be working right now? It appears to be, so I'm gonna go ahead. Today we're talking a little bit about Spider-Man: No Way Home. I never really even did like any sort of video talking about the trailer that came out or anything like that, but there's been some leaks, and between that and What If wrapping up, we are going to talk about it. Now, I was watching the last episode of What If. It's been out for a little bit, but it's just been a little slow on the draw on that. And I have about like 8 minutes left, including credits. So I got the general gist, and I'll watch the tail end, like whatever bit is left after. But I think I know where we're going from there. And it's not to say that I didn't enjoy that, but that and Loki seems to be setting up a lot of stuff that No Way Home is going to be dealing with, along with Doctor Strange's movie, The Multiverse of Madness, and just the larger narrative going on within the MCU right now. So, gosh, where do we even begin? With all that in mind, I guess we'll start with Loki. Uh, for those that don't know, and this is going to be a pretty spoiler heavy review for shows like this and What If, I do recommend both series. They are pretty fun and show a lot of where we're going from here, but this video is going to try and help people uh, get a sense of what's going to happen in the Spider-Man movie without doing all of that preamble stuff. Even though I think you maybe should, at a certain point you just have to kind of let people in on the story and try and catch people up a bit. Because the idea is we can almost discard like everything that happened, Infinity Wars, Endgame, and all that stuff is done. That story's been told, and moving forward, we're getting into this multiverse stuff, where basically it's like other fictional universes where there is multiple realities where different worlds exist. On one such world is the world of Avengers, Captain America, and where all these movies have taken place. But there are infinite other realities where endless variations of them were happening. That was actually being locked out of the MCU in a very specific way that's dealt with in the Loki show, but that's no longer the case. And What If, the Disney Plus show, is kind of dealing with our first little taste of that, giving us different worlds, different takes on MCU style events, and kind of getting us ever closer towards Spider-Man No Way Home, which is going to be our first real taste of it in a live action big movie. They've certainly flirted with it in Loki, and even in earlier stuff that goes back to some of the earliest days of the MCU, where there was talk of multiverse stuff. As I've been watching it with my girlfriend and catching up, I've noticed there are hints of those things. Whether or not those hints were intentionally referring to the multiverse is unclear, but they talk about it quite a bit in the first Doctor Strange movie, which I thought was interesting. So that takes us to the No Way Home trailer, which you can all watch online if you haven't already. That was leaked, I believe, but has now been officially put out. It features the return of Alfred Molina, I believe his name is, as Dr. Octopus from the second ever Spider-Man movie where Tobey Maguire was Spider-Man, as well as Peter Parker, the MCU version played by, what's his name? I know it's Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and I'm completely blanking on Spider-Man 3, just I think because I got the other two. Tom Holland, of course. There we go. And so Tom Holland's Spider-Man at the end of his second movie was like outed to the world as Peter Parker. So he has Doctor Strange cast a spell where everyone will forget him, and that seems to cause some sort of damage to the fabric of the multiverse, which is already kind of unhinged and unsupervised at this point thanks to the events of the Loki Disney Plus show. So because of that, we have the second Doctor Octopus, or like the original Doctor Octopus, I should say, from the second Spider-Man movie showing up, leading to a ton of rumors and speculation that had already been like out in the internet miasma, and there had been a lot of thoughts that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were also going to return as alternate versions of Spider-Man. And that increasingly seems to be the case. So we now have another leak, and I think this kind of stuff is just gonna happen here and there with so many different visual effects studios and with companies like Disney and Sony often dicking around these companies and not paying them enough so that their employees aren't, like, as loyal as they should be. This is going to happen, especially just because so many hundreds of people are involved. Now, Sony, I think, kind of knew this along with Disney when making things, because they did stuff like, and it's been done in other TV shows and such before. Okay, I'll read your thing in a second, but I also, you might need to clarify who Michelle is for me. So, oh shoot, I lied. Okay, well, Xavier God says, please have Michelle die, and if they kill Tobey, do it in a great way. Because that's the thing. So apparently this leak is saying that there is some major character death, but Sony filmed multiple versions of that scene, so nobody knows for sure who actually dies. And that's interesting. The leaker did have like scenes of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man suits, and like footage showing Willem Dafoe and Jamie Foxx back as Green Goblin and Electro, the latter of which was apparently pretty widely speculated as well. I heard a lot of rumors of that. There's like a clip that he leaked showing there's like going to be Sandman, Lizard, Doc Ock, and Electro all appearing. Well, we covered some of those already, but Lizard and Sandman are new, and basically we have there a Sinister Six in some form or another. Whether or not it's going to be like I could see a lot of those characters being little cameos at the end of the movie, but we will see. It does seem as though Doctor Strange is imprisoning Spider-Man villains from across the multiverse, so if that's the case, that's very interesting. And the leaker then goes on to say that it's not a Spider-Man character who's going to die No Way Home. So no Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield, like Xavier was kind of worried about. Because a lot of people, and I think that's kind of the instinct, and I wouldn't even fault the film for doing that with one of these older Spider-Men who are played by older actors that might not be that interested in keeping this going past No Way Home forever and ever. But it seems instead to be more of an interpersonal character. And a lot of the speculation of who's more likely to die, I've heard of stuff like Ned, like Peter's friend MJ, or Aunt May. Specifically the versions played by Zendaya and Marissa Tomei of the MCU one. My guess is actually, though, that it might be Happy Hogan. I could see him kind of also being like on his way out. Maybe Jon Favreau isn't super interested in continuing his role in these movies going forward. Happy, who's played by Jon Favreau, has like this huge history with the MCU going all the way back to the very beginning where Favreau directed the first Iron Man movie. And that connective tissue, to me, plus like, and he has like this relationship with Peter, he sort of represents Iron Man. I like it, that as, like, if I were telling this story, that's maybe the direction I would take it if we're going to do a death scene and have it be significant, and it is going to go in that direction. But there's also a lot of stuff in this leak that feels cliched or maybe based on incomplete information. Again, if Sony and Disney are kind of wise to leaks and information getting out, especially on a movie around this, it does seem kind of right to me that maybe they would go in the direction of instead, like, because it says here, like, okay, so this death scene is going to drive Tom Holland mad with rage to the point that he's going to consider murdering the main villain. That kind of stuff's been done in past superhero stuff and almost does read like someone maybe doing this just to, like, and they don't have the information they're getting at. If it is a VFX artist, I'm sorry, there's sirens going on back there. If there is a VFX artist, it's very unlikely to me that he'd have a larger complete picture of the thing. So maybe this person did manage to get a hold of a couple of screenshots and some footage based on what specific scene this company was contracted to do effects for, and are kind of extrapolating from there for whatever reason. I say all that because we should be a little skeptical about a lot of what I'm talking about in this video. But the final point that I think is interesting is that it will kind of open up towards Spider-Verse style content of more Spider-Man characters being out there, all connected through Madame Web. And that includes characters like Silk, Spider-Woman, Miles Morales, presumably Spider-Gwen, and that sort of thing. That's interesting, but is a little bit of an issue if we also have these animated movies out there all about Spider-Verse. But I noticed that the tone and focus seems to be a little different. Like, there isn't a mention of Gwen. We could do a live-action Miles Morales without it really interfering with Spider-Verse so much, but maybe it won't be full Spider-Verse. And this kind of talk does make me wonder how divorced future Spider-Man content will be from the MCU. Supposedly, this is also going to be like the last MCU Spider-Man event, which might lead to Tom Holland being separated out, but little details and like the actual present footage of Doctor Strange imprisoning these villains suggest potentially otherwise. Maybe Sony and Disney have quietly worked out a deal that they are going to be working together more in the future with more revenue sharing and stuff like that, which, to be honest, is in their best interest. So, it's a lot of stuff. There are little like notes out there that like this is only the start of the multiverse saga, which would also indicate that Spider-Man isn't here to stay. Or leave the MCU, is what I meant to say, and it seems unlikely, and that's from a different Marvel insider and stuff, but it does get into this speculation and stuff, and I will maybe end this spiel with one more reminder to people not to read too much into some of the rampant speculation, rumors, and all of that stuff coming out of there. A lot of this is based on happenstance and hearsay, and also doesn't exactly fit in with what we know about the MCU. I think what we can expect is I don't want to say that the story is going to be small, I just want to suggest that maybe it's going to be building up to stuff rather than it's going to be like, oh, there's Sinister Six in this movie, there's going to be 3 Spider-Men, and Silk, and Spider-Woman, and Miles Morales and stuff. I think it's going to open the gateway for a lot of this content, and maybe its ending is going to leave a lot of that stuff open, but we might not even get a full Sinister Six thing that hasn't exactly been promised. It could be, for example, that like the first little bit is about casting the spell and getting into all of that stuff. Then we deal with the consequences, and Doctor Strange and Peter Parker have to deal with the appearance of Dr. Octopus and maybe a couple other characters like Jamie Foxx and the Green Goblin. And then we get into the other Spider-Man, a bunch of multiverse stuff, and a finale which sort of cues up the Sinister Six. And I could be wrong, I don't want to disappoint people, but it just reminds me a lot of the dynamics that we've seen across the release of these 4 Disney Plus shows. Especially in stuff like WandaVision, where people got so excited and were adding all these theories of what could be or what might be happening down the road, and I think that disappointed a lot of people when it turned out to be a lot more self-contained and maybe hinting at some of these future things without going full Nelson into it. And I think that's the better way to go about it. A lot of people who are going to be going into this movie probably haven't seen all the Disney Plus shows and stuff, so there is going to be a lot of time and care probably spent introducing and explaining some of the dynamics behind the multiverse and getting people used to the idea of there being 3 different Spider-Men out there. However, I think it also is a really clever way of introducing this content because the public consciousness is already familiar with the idea of 3 different Spider-Men and 3 different actors playing them. This should actually translate really well into screen. So we will see, and there is a lot of talk about like where they're going to go from here, but it does feel like we can't have all of this stuff with Doctor Strange, all this stuff with Spider-Man, and this is the end. So it really has me curious and a little more excited. I know since we've done the Shang-Chi review, I've cooled my opinion on that particular movie. I enjoyed it, but I'm starting to really see its limitations. And I think stuff like maybe The Eternals and this movie can really start to push Spider-Man, or not even Spider-Man, like, but the larger MCU out into the more exciting direction that it feels like it's asking for at this point. Maybe we did need stuff like Black Widow, WandaVision, Spider-Man Far From Home to cool us down a little bit post Infinity War Endgame, but I am kind of in the mood for something different and with a little bit of ambition. Along with that, with stuff like Venom 2 around the corner for me, I think it's out for some other people in different areas of the world and such. That movie apparently is that refreshing change of pace for comic book movies. So Sony might actually be a good direction for that and can actually work with Marvel to do such a thing. But I'm also curious if at some point Venom isn't going to maybe cross over with Spider-Man. Maybe it does already. I haven't seen Venom 2 yet, but that is a very exciting potential for all of this. So that's all I have to say about these leaks and everything. Take it all with a grain of salt, obviously, but it is interesting, and we'll have to see where things go from here. I will leave with just a little bit more information. So Spider-Man No Way Home is coming out December 17th, 2021, although that says USA, so it might be another situation where I have another week to wait until after that, and it's like a Christmas Day release for us here in Canada. But we'll find out when it happens. And I will definitely, and I'm very curious about all of that. Here, I am going to just sort of flip through the Wikipedia page to see if there's anything else we don't know. So Jamie Foxx has been confirmed. We all but knew that. And there is a Flash Thompson coming back, who was apparently the guy who played him earlier, which is interesting. Yeah, a lot of characters are coming back, like Hannibal Buress' character. J.K. Simmons, of course, is returning because he got cured at the end of Far From Home. Okay. Character of Green Goblin has been confirmed as well. So it really does kind of seem like the direction I'm seeing, where it's like maybe 3 villains against 3 heroes kind of thing. But a lot of stuff is tightly wrapped otherwise. There isn't a lot of other new information I'm seeing on here since, like, any other news that I've read or any other research that I did. But, here we go. So this is new. In August, it was confirmed a 4th movie is in development alongside No Way Home. Tom Holland does seem eager to play the character again in the future and said as much as February. But Zendaya wasn't aware of that in July. So it seems like as early as August, just based on the hype around the trailer alone, they've already greenlit a 4th film and are signing up actors. My guess is because you wouldn't just announce that without having some contracts to back it up. So it's truly interesting. And I am pretty optimistic about most of this. So leave a comment based on what you guys think, what you think is going to happen. And we'll be back to review that, I guess, when it happens, along with other stuff in between now and then. So be sure to subscribe and everything. And we'll see you guys next time.